Good morning and thanks for coming along. 5 ways to optimize your website to achieve stronger inquiries is the title of today's webinar. So before I get started, I am going to tell you a little bit more about myself. So I'm Jag Panisar. I am the director at Xpand. I founded the business in 2007, so we're coming up to 16 years. And some of the more recognizable names that we've delivered projects for are the Tetley Brewery, Lindt Chocolate and Her Majesty's Prison Service. Even though we primarily work in the B2B arena, like I say, these are the more recognizable names. The most common question that I get asked, so I always answer this straight away: no, we didn't get free beer. Yes, we did get free chocolate. No, it wasn't to recruit prisoners into the prison. It was an internal branding project. So hopefully that's not a question at the end of it. Right, so that's a little bit about me. Right, let's get started. There's 5 key skill sets required to create your website. What are those 5 key skill sets? So, more or less in this order, this is what you need to be doing to get the right kind of website in place. You need a marketer. You need the person to step back, take a helicopter view of everything, understand the audience and the competition and what needs to go on the site, so that you're creating something that absolutely speaks to your audience. So before you get into any kind of design or the fancy sexy imagery or anything like that, you need to be kind of thinking from a marketer's perspective. You need an SEO person, so you need to have the right keywords in there. You need to make sure that the website is built running to the right kind of speed and all the other millions of other factors from an SEO point of view that need to be looked at. You need a copywriter, a professional copywriter. This is one of the most underrated skills within generally in marketing. Just because you can write English, it doesn't mean that you can write copy that converts. So writing the right kind of copy that talks to the target audience is fundamental. Then you need your user experience designer, or UX for short. So again, not just a graphic designer or any old designer. They need to be a UX designer. They need to have an understanding of what's going to go where and why it's going to go where. And then finally, you need your web developer. That's the person that will obviously put it all together. Now, often, number 4 and number 5, when you're kind of dealing with much smaller one-man setups or very small agencies, they might have, there might be a good designer or there might be a good developer. They'll throw their hand at other elements. But the reality is these are the 5 key skill sets that need to be considered in order for your website to really hit hard. So moving on, the kind of things that you're going to learn today. So number 1, knowing the journey you should take your website user through. So from what I've just told you, that's going to focus around the UX side of things. Number 2, having your audience personas in place. That's the marketer from the list I've just given you. Making sure your website has content that caters for different user habits. That's the UX designer and the copywriter. Making use of the right kind of imagery. That belongs to the UX designer. And building credibility through testimonials and reviews. UX as well. That's something that the UX designer would put in place. So you'll notice here we've not talked about anything technical to do with development or SEO. This is the kind of stuff that will hopefully give you a good understanding of the kind of things that you need to be considering when it comes to your own website. And it's stuff that you can either do yourself if you've got the capability, or you can instruct your own web development team, design team, copywriters to actually help shape things to move in the right direction for you. So your prospect needs 7 touch points minimum with your brand before they take action. On average in a day, we see between 3,000 and 25,000 marketing messages in a day. If you think about the room that you're sat in, there'll be branding everywhere. There'll be branding on the screen that you're looking at. There'll be branding on your watch. If you open up your phone and you look at all the apps, you open up Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, you're being pounded with branding non-stop all day, every day. You have to touch base with something 7 times minimum, have a need or a want for it, and then you're going to take some kind of action. So that takes us into, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take a helicopter view. I'm going to kind of step right back and then zoom back in on the subject matter. So there's 7 stages to achieve return on investment. This is a model we've created ourselves called Solar 7. So I'll quickly talk you through it. So stage 1 is discovery. It's understanding where you've been, where you are now as a business, where it is you want to go, what your objectives are. who your competition are and who your audience are. So once you've sat down and got all that information together, you moved on to stage 2. Stage 2 is a strategy, and that captures all activity that needs to take place in order to achieve the goals, the objectives that you've outlined in stage 1 in discovery. The outcome from a strategy should be an action plan of, right, in March we need to do this, in April we need to do that, in May we need to do this, and so on and so on and so on. And they should always be tied into the specific goals that you've outlined at the discovery stage. Stage 3 of the model is your brand and your message. Your brand is so much more than just your logo. It's all about the key messages that come across. It's about the style of language that you use. It's how it makes people feel. So that is fundamental to all of your marketing. Stage 4 is your website, which is the sun. It's like the sun in your solar marketing system. So you've got your brand and you've got your messaging that you want to get across and the tone of voice. So you put that into the website. Then stage 5 is what we call the planets. And these are all the 5 different ways in this generic model, but there's all kinds of other ways that you can drive traffic to your website. So that can be being found on Google, social media, email, advertising, or PR. And the orange ring around each one is content, because as content is central to the model, content is also really important to the channel. So I always say, you know, you could be posting on social media all day, every day. But if you're not saying anything that resonates with your target audience that you've identified at this discovery stage, it means nothing. If you think back to the previous slide where I was talking about the 7 touch points and 3,000 to 25,000 marketing messages per day, these arrows represent a connection between these different channels. So you need to be present across as many target audience relevant channels as possible. So you're getting as many touch points as possible. So you might be seeing, people might be seeing your brand on Instagram and on LinkedIn, and they might be reading about you through some PR, and then they might be getting emails from you, and then they might go to your website. So you need to kind of do as many of these as possible. Stage 6 is reviewing and measuring what's working. Always keep a close eye on what's working and what isn't working, and fine tuning. And that's ultimately what gets you to your return on investment. So that is the bigger picture. And today we're focusing on stage 4, the website. So a little bit of research. About a year or so ago, I put a poll out on LinkedIn, and I asked the question, how many times do you visit a business-to-business website before you make an inquiry? So this is focusing, so the primary audience for today's webinar is very much about business-to-business organizations. As you can see the results there, 48% said that they visit 2 or 3 times, they'll make an inquiry, 4 or 5 times, 19%, 5+ times, 8%. So basically 76% of people out of the 62 people in this very small poll said that they'll visit 2 or 3 times before they make a decision on whatever they're doing. So they're not just going in saying, right, yeah, I'm interested, pick up the phone and buy. A quarter are, but the other vast majority are not. So I've put together a bit of a diagram of a typical B2B journey that people will go through. So in the first instance, down here you can see these the planets, as I called them in our Solar 7 model, are social media, email, PR, and Google. So they might have kind of had numerous touch points, and then they decide, okay, right, I'm going to visit the website. So they go and visit the website, you know, whether you're selling printing or whether you're selling wealth management services or whether it's recruitment, they'll visit your website. And then the reality is they get distracted. Think about your own experiences. You get distracted, something happens, a phone rings, a client calls, you've got an important meeting to go to. So anyway, when you get the time again, you'll go back to the website, and then you'll probably get distracted again. And then you go back to the website, and at some point, that's where the inquiry, that magic inquiry comes in. So I've based this on what I said in the vast majority of people saying they visit a website 2 to 3 times. So if you remember this, I'm going to refer back to this particular diagram as we go throughout today's webinar. So let's get straight into it. Number 1, knowing the journey you should take your website user through. So what is a user journey on a website? It's a path a user may take to reach their goal when using a particular website. So when you go to a website in a B2B scenario, or in any kind of scenario, you often want to go there for a purpose. You have a reason for being there. In a B2B environment, it'll usually be to get some information because you're interested in a service of some kind. So here's a screenshot of the Xpand website as it stands. So you've got obviously our navigation across the top. You've got a kind of the main title of what we're offering, a little bit of sub information, and then a call to action. Now, there's something wrong with this, and I'll tell you what's wrong with it is the call to action is get in touch. What we're doing here on this mock-up, because it is a mock-up, is we're immediately, it's the equivalent of going on a date, on a first date, and immediately asking someone to marry you. You're immediately going in and saying, yeah, get in touch. What we're not doing is taking them through a user journey. So if you're asking immediately at the very top of your website, saying to people, get in touch, you're probably pushing a little bit too hard, a little bit too quick. What we actually do have on there is the view our work call to action, because we're an agency. People want to see the results that we've achieved. So once you click on view our work, this is just screenshots. Once you click on view our work, you'll see a whole list of all the different types of results and bits of work that we've done for clients. So let's say you think, okay, right, so this is, I like the look of this, Pinder Cooling, £290,000 of inquiries in 12 months. Let's click through to this. So you click through to this, and what it shows you is, let me actually just show you a live version of this. So you go to view our work, and then you scroll down, you think, all right, Pinder Cooling. So you click through to Pinder Cooling, tells you a little bit about the case study, the challenge, some visuals of the kind of things that have happened, a few more visuals, what the solution was, some statistics, get a quote. So we're asking at that point, once we've proved, okay, we've got a bit of credibility, and then we show a little bit more information, give a bit more information on results, and then we have another call to action saying, let's chat. So let's assume, once you've kind of built that credibility and people thinking, oh, wow, there's some good results these guys have got, £290,000 in 12 months. That's great. Then you click on get a quote. And at that point, we're asking people to fill in a conversational form, put in their name, put in their company name, what services they require, and then they submit the inquiry. So that is an example of a typical user flow. So I'll just go back to the screenshots, and what that shows you is what I just showed you, whoopsie-daisy. So yeah, you go from the home page, you go to the case studies page, you go to a particular case study, and then you go to get a quote. So I haven't said get a quote straight away. I've said, let's just go through that flow. So that's an example. I'm going to talk a lot about the Xpand site today, because obviously it's something we've created ourselves and we know it works because we're always fine-tuning things. So the question here is, how do you map out your user journey? Put yourself in the website user's shoes. You are not your customer. You might create something you think, oh, I like that, but it's all about your audience persona, which I'm going to talk about shortly. What information is it that they actually want to see? Yeah, all right, you want them to buy from you, but what do they want to see first? They want to build trust. They want to understand that they can trust you. They want to see that you're professional. They want to see that you're going to deliver the goods. And then also, you want to make it digestible. You do not want to pound them with a big wall of text or just too much information. It just needs to be nicely laid out in just very digestible bits and pieces, which I'll talk through shortly as well. So a typical journey might be, as I've just shown you on the Xpand website, from the home page, you might take them to case studies, and then from there you might say to them, get in touch, or we can give you a quote. Another one might be from the home page, somewhere, let's say a bit further down. Another call to action on the page could be, because you can have more than one, of course, is take them to the services page, and let's say they've learned about a particular service. Then from that page, connect them to a case study to do with that service. Once you've proved what you can do, at that point, say, get in touch. And then likewise, you can maybe switch that around. From the home page, take them to a case study, and then you might take them to a service to do with that case study and ask them to get in touch. So it can be a combination of things. The idea with if you think about your own user habits, how easy is it to click on the back button if you're not seeing the thing that you want? You know, we're all busy people these days, so you want to be able to, for want of a better phrase, monopolize a person's time. You want to be able to kind of get them so interested that they're going to use your website and flow through it, and hopefully somewhere down the line that will imprint in their mind. Now, going back to the diagram about kind of the journey. So where does this particular point fit into this journey? Well, it fits in to all three stages of what I outlined, you know. So the user journey, they might go to the website the first time and they might say, okay, yeah, we have a quick look there, but they might not look at all the detail in detail. By the second time they go in, they might look at something else. And by giving them different options, you're taking them through different parts of the journey. So let's move on to the next point, having your audience personas in place in order to make sure your website is speaking to each one of them. What is an audience persona? An audience persona is a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customer based on market research and real data about your existing customers. So where do you start? So this is the thing I was talking about. This is where you've got to have the marketer mindset, or have a marketer looking at your audience personas. Start with the who. Who is the audience? What do they care about? What are their pain points? Why are they buying? When are they buying? Now you might say, well, I've got 50 customers, I've got hundreds of customers, I've got thousands of customers. What you ideally want to do is group them into you know, 2, maybe 3 different types of customers. I'll give you an example. This is one that we've created for a client of ours called Mitchell's. They're a palletized distribution company based in the Midlands. So this is Nicola. She is an assistant depot manager, and she's one of the people that might contact Mitchell's because she needs their services to have things delivered all over the country. So we outline, we give information. We've made, Nicola isn't a real person, but we've treated her like a real person. We give her a name, we give her a background, we give a quote that she typically might say, what her demographic is. She's 38, she's recently married, she's got kids. And then we talk about what are her identifiers. You know, she's straightforward. She likes to know the detail and facts. What are her goals? You know, ensure the month ahead at the depot is planned and optimized, to spend more quality time with her daughters. What are her primary challenges? What sources of information does she have? Where does she get her information from? You know, in this case, it's social media, LinkedIn. She watches or listens to the news, BBC, Radio 2. What kind of topics is she interested in, and what kind of people is she influenced by? And you can usually find this by searching a certain job title and looking on LinkedIn, and you can get a good feel of people's interests if you don't have that kind of knowledge and understanding of your customers. We have actually, I'll point you to a resource further into the webinar. We have actually created a webinar specifically on how to do something like this. So I would urge you guys, you know, make sure you have a good understanding of who your particular target audience is. So where does that fit in? Where does point 2 fit into the journey? Point 2 fits into the journey right at the beginning before you even get to the website. Once you know about your target audience, you know what kind of marketing channels you're going to use, and of course you can then know what kind of language you're going to use on your website, and you know, how you're going to shape your website. So that takes us on to number 3. Making sure your website has content that caters for different user habits. So there are 3 types of website users, broadly speaking. Number 1 are skimmers. These are people that will read headings, bullets, and key stats. They'll quickly make a decision on how to move forward. So I think it's fair to say I'm a skimmer. You know, I'm very busy. I run my own little business. I've got all kinds of things going on. In the first instance, I'm always time short. In the first instance, I'm skimming information just to pick out the key points. So that's the first one. The second one, you've got swimmers. Swimmers, they might read some of the more detailed content, maybe watch a video and click onto a deeper page. So they're the ones that I'll go into a little bit more detail. So these are the swimmers. And then you've got the divers. The divers, these guys will read, these people will read all the content on the page. They'll watch a video and they'll go to other pages on the site. So they'll get into every last little nook and cranny and every last bit of nitty gritty. And this will just depend on your own personality profile and kind of what kind of a detailed person that you are. So there's 3 types of people that you need to be catering for. Why? Let's have a look at this in relation to a sales funnel. So a sales funnel is something, it's a process that we all go through, whether you're buying a packet of gum or whether you're buying a house or everything in between. So this is an overall, just a very generic overview. So I always use the example of buying a car. So my car's broken down and I need a new car, and I'm being targeted by adverts from BMW and from Mercedes, let's say. So I'm aware of, I have a problem and I'm aware of their product. So I'm in the awareness stage. They've made me aware and they've targeted me through social media and TV and radio, whatever else they're doing. So I go into the consideration phase. I'll go to their websites, I'll do a bit of reading, I'll figure out which car it is that I want on both websites. I'll then go into the engagement stage, might pick up the phone and have a chat with the guys at Mercedes and the guys at BMW. I'll then go into the showroom and test drive a car and decide, okay, right, I'd like to buy a BMW, so I'll go into the purchase stage, and then I'll go into the retention stage. Maybe a few years later, they'll say, right, okay, Mr. Panesar, your lease is up for renewal. Would you like to buy another BMW from us? So that's a generic sales funnel. We all go through it, subconsciously or not. How does that fit into the way that you would consume content? The further down, the closer you get to a purchase, the more of a detailed reader you become. So I'm naturally a skimmer. So I would just kind of skim the information. So whether I'm kind of reading through the information on the website or engaging and talking to someone, I become a swimmer. And then just as I get to the purchase stage, that's when I will really get into the detail, reading contracts and making sure the car has all the right bells and whistles on it and stuff like that. So the closer you get to going into closer to a purchase, the more detailed you're going to become, just to make sure that you're making the right kind of purchase. So where does point 3, where does this point fit into the journey? Well, so we've got 3 website visits and the distractions in between. So in the first instance, you're the skimmer. In the second instance, you become the swimmer. And in the third instance, you become the diver. That might actually be a bit further down because, you could be making the inquiry and then you become the diver further down. But this gives overall a generic outline of kind of what you need to make sure you're catering for. So it isn't just about catering for one type of user. You need to make sure the information is laid out in the right kind of way. Which takes us on to the next point. How do you lay out your copy? You need to think hierarchy. Your main headers, obviously, it's kind of self-explanatory. The main headers always need to be in a large font. Get to the key point. Get to the key point of the section in the first few lines. This can be bold, or it can, to create a text hierarchy, or it can be a bigger font. And then your main body copy is usually smaller, and it's what the user will read if they're a natural diver or further down the sales funnel. So you've got large, medium, small. Now, I'll give you a working example of how that works. Like I said, this is just a generic overview. We created a website for a company called Zip. We did a full rebrand for them. We did a full strategy for them, and we created their website. They used to be called Eurocars as a taxi service in Bradford, and we fully rebranded them to get them to be more Uber-esque. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll pull over their website and I'll show you it on here. So when you think about the hierarchy, you've got this nice large text here that kind of outlines, what that first bit of information is we want to give everyone. We scroll down, you've got your calls to action here to download the app. We scroll down, you've got, again, the large subheader, very digestible, small body text, call to action, and then scroll further down, large header, digestible content, and then obviously a testimonial on the side. So you've got this hierarchy that keeps working, large header, and then straight into the body copy. So that gives an example of making it digestible. Very, very, very important point. Don't just just put big chunks of blocks of text in there. So moving on to the next point, making use of the right kind of imagery. Imagery can be the make or break of your website. One thing I always say is we can design the most beautiful website in the world, But if the imagery that you provide is not up to scratch, it can pull it all to pieces. It takes 13 milliseconds for the human brain to process an image. The human brain processes images 60,000 times faster than text. Now, I don't know what 60,000 times faster of 13 milliseconds is, but it's bloody quick. So as I say, a picture paints 1,000 words, and that's the thing, you know, that visual impact can have so much more than the text. Now, the text is an important part of it, but that first impressions last, as I say, that is such an important part. If you're a service business, which I'd imagine most of you are on this webinar, use people pictures. People pictures sell. So these are a few examples of some great professional photography we've had done. And you know, it's stuff that's kind of prominent across all of our marketing. It's us guys, our team, having a meeting, and we're actually talking about real things, and the photographer was there just doing his thing, and it captured really good, just natural photography of us. You know, if you're a one-person outfit, all right, you might say, I don't have a team, I can't do something like that. But if you can kind of create a scenario where you might be with clients or with a few people, it's a kind of thing that makes it human. You know, we all talk about unique selling points in marketing, and what that thing is that makes you unique. In a service business, it is the people that is a fundamental part. It's that human relationship, it's the service that really is a fundamental part of it. So, you know, that's the thing you really want to get across, the human element of it. Now, talking of human element, eyes are a strong biomotive trigger. What the hell is a biomotive trigger? I saw a chap called Simon Priest speak a few years ago. He is a legend in the branding world, and he works in the business to consumer arena within fast-moving consumer goods, amongst many other areas. And they worked on Andrex, the Andrex toilet roll product, and they use biomotive triggers to reinvigorate their sales. So by using what I'm going to tell you about in a second, the use of this thinking allowed them to turn 6 years of volume decline into record revenue growth. Now, what did they do? What is it that they did to actually turn it around? Now, what I'm going to talk about now is very specific to supermarkets. You know, in a supermarket, you've got 3 seconds. As a product, you've got 3 seconds to get someone's attention. If you don't, then you've lost them to all the other hundreds, thousands of products within the arena, that the supermarket that they're walking around in. We all know the Andrex dog. Lovely, cute little puppy. The image you're looking at is the image is an enhanced image. So before this one, there was always the puppy dog on there. It was a lot smaller and it was looking away. So what they did was they actually enhanced the image of the puppy dog and they made it make eye contact. Now, as humans, naturally, our natural animal instinct is to look. If something's looking at you, you will naturally want to look back at it, something or someone. And by actually increasing the size of the image of the dog and having the dog making eye contact, this is how they were able to actually increase their sales, by doing something that seems so simple. They made it more human. So how do we apply that in a B2B arena? Think about where eyes are looking. Now, this is a picture of Simon on our website at the bottom of one of our services pages. He's not quite as cute as the puppy dog, but he's making eye contact. And throughout our website, in various places, wherever we have a call to action, not in all places, but we have eye contact images, because it's the thing that makes you more human. So having a mixture of people not making eye contact and making eye contact, it's a great thing to be able to do. And another example is, we've got a picture. This is Charlotte on our homepage. What Charlotte's doing is, this is obviously a picture that she was writing on the whiteboard. And what we've done is we've got her with the pen writing on the whiteboard, but we've actually purposely set the pen so it actually aligns with the call to action, and even her line of sight. She's looking at the copy. So even then, subconsciously, you know, this isn't something that's going to be the make or break of your site, you know, someone looking at the copy, but it's subconsciously her line of sight is in there. So it's all of these kind of little tips, and this can sometimes be that little pebble that can just tip your user into kind of clicking on view your process, or whatever that thing is that you want them to be able to do. So the question there is, where does point 4 fit into the journey? Well, like they say, first impressions last. It's really fundamental in that first point. You know, if you've got the right kind of imagery, and you know, if, like I say, if you're a service business and you're really kind of, you know, getting that human element across, as well as obviously, you know, whatever else it is that you do, your expertise, it's at this point that it's most important, that first visit. Which moves us on to building credibility through testimonials and reviews. So why do you need to build credibility through testimonials and reviews? Let me give you a few stats. 92% of customers read online reviews before buying. Think about your own buying habits. If you're going to go, say, on holiday, you're going to probably go to TripAdvisor just to check out the reviews for the hotel. 72% of consumers say positive testimonials and reviews increase their trust in a business, and trust is paramount. That's what you ultimately want. You want people to be able to trust you. You want to get that trust across. Again, going back to the human element of, you know, the eye contact and showing, you know, that you know, you have, you know, just good people working in your team that can be trusted. And 70% of people trust reviews and recommendations from strangers. So again, you know, some great stats here that really show some strong justifications. Now, let's think about it in terms of your website. What not to do with testimonials. Have a dedicated page for testimonials. You don't want to do that. We do see it a lot. If you've got a page that's there and you've got 8 great testimonials from people, why don't you want to do that? You think, oh, hang on a minute, yeah, but people can read all this amazing stuff about us. From our experience, from what we see in Google Analytics, that is one of the least used pages. I'll come back to that shortly. You don't want to have testimonials rolling on a slider. You'd think, hang on a minute, that's a great thing to do. You know, a slider, you can cram loads of information in there. A few years ago, we had a slider on our own website, on the homepage. We had a call to action for the 3 or 4 sliders that we had. The first call to action got the vast majority of the clicks. The second call to action, we saw a significant drop. And by the third call to action on the third slider, it's 0. And by the fourth, again, 0. People are not going to sit there and watch your sliders like it's a movie. They're going to go there because they want to be there for a reason and get the information they want and go. And asking someone to wait or interact and click on something is like climbing a flight of stairs in the real world. They have to really, really, really want to kind of go through it. And you don't want your testimonials hidden away in deeper pages. If you've only got 3 testimonials and they're hidden away somewhere really deep down, that's not the way to do it, because it's probably going to get missed. Let's talk about what to do with testimonials. Place at least 1 on the home page. So this is an example of our website. If you scroll down on the home page, we've got a great testimonial from Richard Montgomery, who's the MD of Mitchell's, the company I was just talking about with the audience personas. He's a great client, and he's saying he's getting more website visits than they've ever had before since we built their new website. So get a testimonial, at least 1 in a prominent place on your homepage to build that credibility and that trust. The next point, place them throughout the website. So don't just put that 1 on the homepage and that's it. Rather than having them on a dedicated page, put a nice big testimonial in your case study. Put it on a service page. So when people are reading about the things that you're doing, put a testimonial on there that supports and builds a trust to show how good you are at that particular thing. And think about the font hierarchy. You know, make the testimonials larger. So I'll give you an example again, going to a screenshot of the Pinder cooling case, one of our service pages. So this is our web design page. So we're talking about the web design, our services. We've got a Pinder cooling case study there. So in the example I gave you before, you take someone to a service page, and then they might want to learn a bit more about the case study. But what we've done here, we've actually put a testimonial in, and we've brought in the font hierarchy and made the testimonial a lot larger. This is a testimonial from the lady that used to be the HR director at Lint, and she said some lovely things about us. So we've really brought that out so it stands out. So it's a font hierarchy, and it doesn't always have to be largest at the top, smaller, smaller, smaller. You can mix that about. And if you're making use of the right kind of clear space, you know, that's the kind of thing that, you know, really kind of supports it. But it's so hard to get testimonials and reviews, right? You know, it's a common thing, a common question that we always get asked, you know, how do I get reviews from people. I ask them all the time, but I just can't seem to get it out of them. Well, it's a common problem. If you think about it yourself, you go to a restaurant and they say, please leave us a review. The reality is you're only going to leave a review if you've had an exceptionally bad service or an exceptionally good service. We're all busy people. How do you get a review from people? Strike while the iron is hot. Once you've delivered a service or you've done something for them, if you know that people are happy, ask them on the spot, send them a link immediately. If you want them to write it down, get them to write it down. That is the thing that works the best. So where does point 5 fit into the journey? Well, it fits in at the beginning. So the very first time you visit your website, people are probably going to have a bit of a scan over it. If you've got a nice little testimonial on your homepage, that'll kind of build that kind of trust in there. And then by the time they're coming to your site for the third time and they're just close to making an inquiry, that's when they're probably getting a bit deeper into looking at things. So it's usually at the first visit and then maybe the last visit in this example. So, folks, they are the 5 ways that you can optimize your website. Now, I'm going to also give you a few useful resources that might also support some of the stuff that I've talked about today. But before we do that, what I would really love, folks, is your feedback. So we're going to just quickly put a poll, just set a poll live for you. It's 3 questions. If you could just quickly answer those for us. Be honest, don't be afraid. No one else can see it besides us. We'd really love your feedback because we do a lot of this kind of stuff. So it'd be great to actually just get your feedback on the poll, if that's okay. So I'll just give you a few minutes to do that. Right, okay, yeah. So like I was saying, a few resources. So we've done webinars, quite a few of them over the years. So there might be a few useful ones here for you to watch. They're recorded, they're on our website. If you go to the blog page on our website and go to the webinar section, you'll find recordings and slides and a write-up of it. One of them is social media versus your website. That was done by myself and Danny, our head of digital marketing. Where should you be investing in 2023? Another one, how to create a connection between your LinkedIn audience and your website. Another one, understanding your customers in depth to achieve post-lockdown growth. This one is the one that talks a little bit more about creating your audience persona, the thing I referenced in point 2, and 7 ways to becoming a LinkedIn all-star. So they're just a few that you might find useful. Just one more thing, and some of you may recognize that as a Columbo reference, some of you may not. But just one more thing. So page speed. So I didn't talk about anything to do with SEO. Page speed can be the make or break of people visiting your site. So nearly 70% of consumers admit that page speed impacts their willingness to buy from an online retailer. Think about it. When you go to a website and you go in and the page is loading slowly, how easy is it to click on the back button? It's very easy. So just yesterday, we achieved a great little result for a new client that came to us by doing an assessment on their site and putting a few small things into place. We actually improved their speed performance from 36% to 92% on their WordPress website, just by recognizing a few bits and pieces that we did on there. So that helped improve the load speed, and off the back of that will also have helped the user experience on the website. So ultimately the goal is to get more inquiries from that. So one of the things that we're offering is a traffic light assessment. So first you need to diagnose if there's any problems on the website in order to be able to amend those problems. So one of the things we're offering is an SEO, like I say, an SEO traffic light report. As a part of that, it's a 10-point assessment on your website's SEO, a simple traffic light color system to show you where you need to focus, a quick SEO assessment of your competitors. It's always interesting to see what they're doing, and then suggestions on how you can improve it, and then a 30-minute consultation from myself via a Zoom call. So if that's something that you're interested in, we're doing that for $249 plus VAT. If you are interested, Naya's going to put my email address into the chat. So, please send me an email, and it'd be great to have a chat, and we can run an assessment for you. And we can hopefully help improve things and move it forward and take it from there for you. So, speaking of while the iron is hot, if you found today's session useful, we'd absolutely love a Google review from you. because obviously that's the kind of thing that builds trust. So again, that's something that Naya is going to put into the chat. So if you could leave us a Google review, if you've enjoyed it or had any kind of value from today, that would be really very much appreciated. So finally, folks, you should now know, knowing the journey you should take your website user through, having your audience personas in place, making sure your website has content that caters for different user habits, making use of the right kind of imagery, and building credibility through testimonials and reviews. Any questions, folks? I'll take that as a no. It's obviously been such a great webinar. I've given you so much information. It's all stuff you'll be able to take away. Thank you so much for coming along, folks. And that's, yeah, the end of the webinar. These are my details on LinkedIn. So please do connect with me. I'd love to have a chat with you. Yeah, thank you for coming.